Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H event space. You're tuned in to bring your memories together, key steps to combine all your media into one library. Of course, part of Save Your Photos Month, the last edition of Save Your Photos Month this month with the photo managers. And for that, somebody who is no stranger now, probably could take my job, Allison Freedman. Welcome.
Thank you. I don't want your job. Don't worry.
I'm
We're
safe. All right,
good.
good. I live to see another day. Well, Allison, it's great to have you back on. Look, this is another webinar we could all use, whether we admit it or not. So, Allison, I'll let you take over, do what you do best, and I will hang in the back. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to get them into the chat on YouTube Live, and we will have some Q&A once Allison finishes up. Allison, I'll see you in a bit for the Q&A.
Great. Thank you so much, Derek. I am excited to be back. I'm just going to set up my screen share here. This is, I think, my fourth webinar with B&H, which I love coming here because I love sharing what I love to do. So I'm super happy to be here today and to finish up Save Your Photos Month, which has run the entire month of September. So today I am going to be walking you through the basic steps and outline of how you can get all of your memories in one place without going crazy and without giving up. This is my goal for today. And at the end, there will be time for questions. So please put them in the chat. I love questions. I can't always answer them, but I will do my best. And let's see, there we go. Whoops, sorry. Okay, so before we get too far, a little bit about me. My name is Allison Freedman. I currently live in Chicago, which is obviously not what's behind me now, but that is where I reside, where I've been for the last many years. My business name is called Arrange Wander Focus, based off of my initials. And I help clients rescue their memories from the nether regions of their computers, their camera rolls, their closets, their attics, all of the places where their memories and their photos and their videos might be, and help them bring them all together so that they have them at their fingertips, so that they can share whenever they want, create a collection for family to keep, all of that, so that they're not lost. I am also an amateur nature photographer and a semi-obsessed birder, so almost all of my screens that you will see today tend to have animals in them or birds. And the other thing that means is that results in a lot of photos. So my own collection is quite large. So I practice what I preach, and I have made all the mistakes on my own collection. So hopefully I can help you avoid some of those by listening today. Our agenda for today, just so you know where we're going, where I'll walk you through the steps to create your media memory library that you can enjoy and share. So these are the 5 things that we'll talk about: gathering, how you'll find everything, tips to curate and clean out your library, how do you find what you're looking for? So some tips on searching. Where should you keep them? A big question that not enough people actually think about. And then probably the most important thing, well, maybe the second most important thing, is backing it all up so that after you do all of this good work, or before you do all of this good work, you don't lose what you've done. It's been horrifying to me to watch people with all of the natural disasters of late lose all of the photos and videos and memories that they have. So I want to give you some tips to make sure that that does not happen to you. Before we get into my presentation today, I wanted to point out that September is Save Your Photos Month, which was started by the photo managers, the association that certified me. I am a certified photo manager. And they have a lot of education. And this Saturday, they are hosting a almost full day of events and workshops to help you give you more information on getting your photo library done and complete and put together. And it's Saturday for one day. If you can't make it for the whole day, you would have access to the recording. So you can take a screenshot or scan that QR code and then put your phone down so that you're listening to what's happening now and not what's happening on Saturday. But I encourage you to at least check it out and see if there's more there. That there's so much more you can learn. And I think that that's very helpful. I'll probably tune in myself because I always learn from watching what other people do. So, why do we have so many photos? Where do they come from? How many do we have? I always find it fascinating to start with just how many photos are out there. So when I, was looking, this is what I found. It is expected that 2.21 trillion images, trillion, will be taken in 2025. That is a lot of photos. If you are in the US, we tend to take just over 20 photos every day. That's an average, but 20 photos a day. And we are increasing the number of photos we take every year by 6 to 8%. So if you're wondering why you have so many photos on your phone and why it seems like you have so many more than, say, your parents did, this is why. Look at this little trajectory here. And there's no reason to think that it's going to stop. We have smartphones, most of us, which means we always have a camera in our pocket. And that means that we're just going to keep taking photos. So what does that mean? It means that when you look at your digital photo library, it might look to you like this big, big, big hill. Like you're standing down here and how do you get up here, which is where everything is organized and pretty and all of those things. And I took this picture a couple years ago. My cousin and I did a bit of a crazy thing. We decided to walk 100 kilometers in 2 days to raise money for charity. This is in the UK, so I don't know if anyone from the UK is watching, but along the Jurassic Coast. And we were told beforehand, practice for the hills, train. It's a long distance over 2 days. I live in Chicago, which is flat. So when I got to, that first big hill, I was thinking, oh boy. And I felt like this picture right here. My head is going to explode. A lot of my clients, a lot of people that I work with feel like this about their photos. So today I'm going to walk you through and make you realize it's really not so bad. By the end of the talk, I hope to have you up here. This is not actually the top because remember, we take 6 to 8%. Our number of digital photos will increase 6 to 8% per year, which means you're never done. But that's okay because that's part of the fun is taking the photos and the memories. And the key is once you get your backlog helped and figured out, you need to have a process to move forward with the photos you're taking today, tomorrow, next week, so that you don't start back down at the bottom. Now, when I was in a prior life, before I started my business, which is about 4 years old now, I was an attorney. And one of the things that we did when we were looking through a case and preparing for trial was identify documents and storylines that we considered key. If they were really important, they would be key. And if they were literally the most important thing in the case, it would be key. When you are organizing your digital photos, in fact, your entire photo collection, analog prints as well, the key to remember is that done is better than perfect. You don't need to stress over every last detail, every individual photo, or you will never finish. Enjoy the journey. Again, this is not about how fast you can get to the end, because while you're looking through your photos and working through them, you will find things that you have maybe forgotten about or you remembered but you had not seen in a while that will bring back all sorts of amazing memories for you. In my case, we were walking along and I turned it and all of a sudden I saw this in the background. This isn't at the end. This is somewhere on the first day, probably around kilometer 40 something or so. I didn't know it was going to be there, and it's gorgeous. So stopped and watched for a while because I knew eventually I would still finish my walk. So as you're going through your photos, as you're going through your process, it's not a race to the finish. Take your time and enjoy the memories because you might be surprised at what you're going to see along the way. So let's get to the meat of it. Probably the most important step. There's two super important steps, the first and the last. You need to gather everything together. This probably is the most important step because you don't want to start going through the process of cleaning out your photos and then find another external hard drive somewhere or more thumb drives in a drawer or a camera with an SD card still in it. You want to start by getting absolutely everything that you can possibly think of in one place at the very beginning. So maybe start with a list. Take a look at this list here on the screen and make a list for yourself of where do you think your photos are. Obvious places, your phone. You may have some also in your computer. Cloud services like Dropbox and Shutterfly, Flickr, there's all sorts of them. The camera cards, if you've ever had a camera, computer hard drives, both your computer and if you have any external drives around, CDs, DVDs, thumb drives. I can't even tell you the number of people I've started working with, and 3 weeks into the process, they sound, well, I was cleaning out my junk drawer or my desk drawer, and I found these 3 unmarked thumb drives. No idea what's on them. Can you take them? Old phones also. And then don't forget things like texts and emails and WhatsApp. So make yourself a list and then start methodically going through that list and checking, do you have any photos there? And if you do, then the next step is to find a place to put them initially. So if you have a computer with a lot of space, go ahead and use that. If you don't, like most of us, our computers may not be able to handle as much space as we need. Get yourself an external drive like this little guy here. I suggest getting one that's twice as big as you think, and I will tell you why in a moment. So for my clients, we usually start with a terabyte or 2 terabyte drives because they're not that expensive. Create a folder on that drive, call it Photo Hub. Then for each one of your sources, so you take your little thumb drive, you pop it into your computer, and you create a folder within your folder hub called, red thumb drive, or take a Sharpie and write number 1 on your thumb drive and create a folder called thumb drive number 1. Copy the images from that thumb drive into that folder, and then take your Sharpie or take some stickers and check it off so that you know that you've done it. So that on the off chance that thumb drive ends up back in your junk drawer, you'll know that you've already pulled anything important off of there. I would actually suggest that you clear off the thumb drive after you copy the photos off so that doesn't happen again. But some people don't like to do that. So do that for each one of your sources. Either copy or move the photos into individually marked folders, and that's so that it's often helpful to know where things come from, and get them all into that one spot and really try to be good about getting absolutely everything, because you don't want to do this again. You don't want to go through this whole process and then in 6 months find another hard drive with 100 gigabytes of stuff and either not know if you've already worked with it or do it again, because it's just very inefficient and it'll end up taking you back down to the bottom of the hill, and we don't want that. My one exception is if you are currently using Apple Photos or Google Photos or something like that, you probably want to leave those photos in place at the beginning and deal with all of the stuff on your hub instead of exporting everything out, because that just makes everything harder. So if you are doing it yourself, leave the cloud services in place for now, the main one, not all of them. If you are an Apple Photos user, but you also have photos in Dropbox, download everything from Dropbox, but leave everything in Apple Photos. And when you download from Dropbox, change the name of the folders to say downloaded or something on it so that you know you've already touched that and you don't have to go back to it. Before you do anything else, make a copy of the entire hub, the whole folder. So everything that you have downloaded into that one folder called Photo Hub, make a copy. And this is why I said you want a larger drive. Name one of those folders original Photo Hub and name the other one working copy Photo Hub. Label it, the original one especially, label it with the date of the gathering in case you do find something else or something else comes along so that you know what your cutoff date is. And make a note somewhere to yourself later on when you're done to delete the original folder because it will be out of date and have a lot of junk in it that you no longer need because you've gotten rid of it. Very, very important. And the reason for this is once you start deleting things, some people get really nervous about deleting stuff. So this will make you feel better. But two, if you make a mistake, you can start over. Nothing is lost. So you'll want to have a full extra copy before you do anything at all. Then we go to step 2, where it's time to curate and make decisions. And I like people to think before they do anything, to really think about what do you want in your photo collection? Why are you doing this? Who is it for? What do you want to save for other people? Family members, either close family or cousins or beyond, or if you have a historical collection, maybe for something else. What do you want to save for yourself? What's important to you? Here's an example of where those things don't always line up. As I mentioned, I am I'm a semi-obsessed birder, I'll call myself. I take so many bird photos and I do clean them out, but literally nobody will want 95% of those except for me. So that is where what I want to save for myself diverges from what I want to save for others, and the others being my family. I will save a few bird photos for them so that they remember that mom was a crazy bird person, but they are not going to want the rest. I get a lot of enjoyment from them, so I am keeping them for me. Think about what kinds of photos do you want to see in your collection in 10 years? When we take photos today, sometimes we take photos of things that are important now or that we're interested in now. But 10 years from now, are we really going to want, the photos of the meal we had last week at some new restaurant? Probably not. So think about that as you go through the curation process. And again, think about your enjoyment and your legacy, kind of like the bird photos. Why are you doing this and what do you want to leave for others? And I have found it very helpful to actually write it down. Write down your purpose. Why are you doing this? Write down who it's for and write down what you want to keep for them. Because some of the things that you come up with, you might not really think about until you go through the process of making your categories and figuring out what you actually want to keep. What do you think people want to see? And you may even want to ask family members, because I know that like some of my family members think, oh, they're not going to want to see that. Allison's not going to care about these photos I have with my great grandmother when we're just sitting around the table. Well, you know what? I actually really, really do care, and I want to see those. But, to my mom or whoever else has those photos, they don't think they're important. So talk to family members as well while you're making this, because ultimately, if you are creating a legacy collection, you are creating it for them and not just you. And then we start into the actual process. So let's start with the easy stuff, which is getting rid of all of the exact duplicates in your collection. And I guarantee 100% that you have some, and you probably have a lot. These are very easy. There's no decision point that is required to get rid of these. They are exact duplicates. They tend to come from, most often I see it when people have all the intention of backing up their photos. So they sit down one day and they make a copy of everything and stick it in a folder on a drive or on a hard drive somewhere. 6 months, a year, 2 years later, they do it again. And they can't remember where they stopped or started, or they can't find the original folder. So they just do the whole thing over again. And this happens over and over and over again. So the idea today with following this type of process is to not let that happen again, which is why at the end we're going to talk about backup and ways to avoid that problem. Some tools that I find very helpful that I use to find these initial duplicates is Dupe Guru, which is a very simple program. It's free. It's available for Mac and PC, not phones. That is a great first step to use. And then if you're on a PC and you want to start looking for more or looking for things that are not exact duplicates but similars on a PC, I like Duplicate Cleaner. It used to be Pro, now it's called Duplicate Cleaner 5, or on a Mac, Photo Sweeper, which is available from the App Store. At the end of this presentation today, I will have a QR code on the screen, and if you scan that and give me your email, I will send you an email that has links to all of the software that I talk about today, that has blog posts that go into some of this in much more detail and a whole bunch of other resources. So, and it's really important because if you just search up duplicate cleaner or duplicate removal, there are several programs that look just like these on the screen, but they are not just like these, and they're not as good, and they may even be some kind of spam or malware. So it's really important to get the actual correct programs. So at the end, give me your, scan the code and I'll make sure that you get those. So what does it look like when you're removing duplicates? This is an example of Photo Sweeper, which I love for anybody with an Apple library, because remember at the beginning where I said don't pull your stuff out of Apple at the beginning, or Google, wherever they are? Photo Sweeper can actually compare what's in your Apple library to all of the other files that you put in your photo hub. And it will identify them and remove them right from your Apple library. Very easy to use. It will not only find the exact duplicates, but it will also find photos that are similar. So I know this is very small, but these 4 photos are not actually exact duplicates. If you can read the file names, they're sequential, which means that whoever took them took 4. I don't need 4, so I just picked 1, the green one, and then delete the rest. So these programs can help you find all these similars and help you get rid of them, which is great. And you don't have, if you're worried about deleting because you make a mistake, you can actually, in all of these programs, move the photos you want to get rid of to a separate folder in case you make a mistake. And then, later on, go ahead and delete en masse. If you're not, you gotta trust the program first, trust the process. iCloud also has its own built-in duplicate remover, which is quite good. You can use it on a Mac or an iPhone, only for Apple Photos. So your stuff, this has to be in your Apple library to use it. The nice thing about it is if you have 2 photos that it identifies as duplicates, and say one of them has a caption and the other one does not, Apple will merge that caption into the photo it is keeping, so you're not losing any information. So on your phone, you can find it under Albums, Utilities. On the Mac, it's on that left side menu under Utilities. Unfortunately, there's no equivalent for Google. There is no good duplicate removal or identifier in Google Photos. So that is very unfortunate. Hopefully they'll come out with one. After deleting the duplicates, there's other categories, sort of low-hanging fruit, that you can get rid of really easily and review. Screenshots. Pretty much every photo organization software has a pre-made album or collection of screenshots. Find it, tap on it, take a look and see, do you still need that copy of a receipt, or, whatever, the book that you see on Facebook that you want to read, and just go through and clean that out of focus photos, mistake photos. Do you have a lot of pictures of your feet, or the inside of your purse? You can get rid of those. It's okay. Burst photos also you can find pretty easily. There's usually collections for those. You don't need them. An example, I was out with friends a couple weeks ago. This isn't exactly burst, but it's the same idea. We handed the phone to somebody because we wanted them to take our picture. She took 40 photos of the four of us just sitting in a row in a theater. So I took a look at the phone. I picked two. One was landscape, one was vertical that I liked. I sent them to the friends that I was with, and I immediately deleted the other 38. So you can get rid of those. And then things like parking spaces, products. I'm always taking a photo of something I see in a store saying to my kid, do you need this? And they'll write back and say yes or no. Well, delete those photos. You don't need to keep them. And then one other category, landscape photos, sunset photos, sunrise, fireworks. You can often get rid of a bunch of those. I love landscape. I love nature. So I tend to keep those, which is why this is such an individual process. But most people don't need 20 pictures from the same viewpoint of the Grand Canyon. So you can probably delete a bunch of those. So these are easy categories, and this is where I would start after the duplicates. Another category is the non-photo photos. And you're thinking, what is a non-photo photo? It's either photo or not photo. It isn't, actually. I figure these are non-photo photos. These are things that we collect for other reasons. So I constantly take screenshots of books I want to read, recipes, shows I want to watch. I see an article, so I, do it because it's easy. And important documents. You don't need any of these things in your photo library. I would say the top three there, books, shows, recipes, things like that, stick them in a notes app. And create one note that says books to read. And every time you take a screenshot or a photo of a book, stick it in there and get it out of your photo library, because think about your legacy. Are your kids going to want to see the books that you were thinking about reading in 2025? Probably not. And they're much easier to find in a note. Now, another category are important documents. And I see this all the time. Literally every collection that I work on for a client, I see photos of driver's licenses, passports, health insurance cards, the form you had to fill out for soccer practice, which has the date of birth of your child on it. This should not be in your photo library. Think about what would happen if somebody got it. Think about if somebody takes your phone is stolen, or your phone is lost. You simply leave your phone open on a table for 2 minutes. Anybody can pick that up. Literally nobody password protects their photo collection. Think about it. And if you do, you would be the first, because I have yet to meet anybody that password protects it. By meaning, obviously you need a password to get in initially, but almost nobody closes that out on their phone. It's always open, so that every time you tap on your photo, whatever it is, your photos pop up. You don't need to do facial recognition. You don't need to type in a password. So if somebody gets that, they have all of that stuff. They'll have anything that's important. So really think about that. This is why you should move all of that stuff out of your photo library. And we actually did a talk, I believe it was last January, for B&H. You can Google it or find it on my website, where we go through an hour of how to keep yourself safer online and what to do with your private documents. So go and take a look for that. It'll also be linked in the email I can send you afterwards. So just again, the sensitive documents, some things are obvious. You'll know what they are, but really anything with your social security or date of birth should not be in your photo collection. So keep them in somewhere else, either a note with password protection or a password keeper. I keep all of my personal sensitive documents in an app called Trustworthy that I love. It has everything in there. So super helpful because not only does it keep things safe, but when my kid calls because they just started school across the country and they forgot their passport, which they need to fill out the paperwork for their new job, I told them go into Trustworthy and find it. There it is. And I don't have to take a picture and send it to him. And I didn't even need to send the original. So you might want to check out something like that. But whatever you do is get them out of your photo library where anybody can pick it up and get that information. So now that the doom and gloom is done, let's get back to cleaning out your library and making it something that you enjoy. Here are my favorite tips for curating, both in the past, so the older stuff, and from today moving forward. Right after you take a groupie, right after you take a group or a selfie shot, save the best and delete the rest before they settle and get comfortable in your camera roll. Because once they lie down in that bed, they're never coming out. You'll have to do this all over again. Delete those transient photos right away. I still take photos of parking spaces. I know I can drop a pin. I don't. I take a photo. I get rid of it when I get back to my car. And then this is not harder. Take photos with intention so that you have fewer photos to delete later. Think about it when you're taking a landscape shot of the Grand Canyon. Like, take a second to line up your shot so it's exactly what you want instead of just doing, 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll make it easier later. And then my favorite tip is when you sit down with your coffee in the morning or on a Sunday, do a daily review. Just go in and look at all the photos you've ever taken on that date. So today is September 24th or whatever day you're watching this. Type in September 24 in your photo organization software, and it'll pull up all the photos from any September 24 that are in your camera roll and go through and figure out what you want and what you don't. And the fun thing about that is all sorts of memories will pop up that you've forgotten about. So moving on to searchability. And this is the really fun part about digital photos is if you have physical photos, it's very hard to find things. If you're looking through a box, it's going to take you forever. Digital photos have so much built-in data and data you can add that you can make them searchable. So many programs by default allow you to search by location if you've turned on your GPS when you took the photo, if you've added it, or date and time. So when I said September 24th, that's already there. You don't have to do anything. You can just search it and you will find it. But some programs also have additional AI where you can search for people if there's facial recognition or common items like animals or buildings, or like if you type in birthday right now, it'll find a whole bunch of photos because there's probably birthday cakes. So that's what it uses, or sports. So take advantage of that. Save yourself some time. But sometimes the AI doesn't work. So my son is a fencer, as in fencing with swords, sport, not a fence builder. And I have yet to find a program that will actually pull those photos for me. If I type in fencing or anything like it, I get picket fences, I get, metal fences, whatever. I don't want those. So when that doesn't work, consider adding keywords or captions or creating albums or collections in your library so that for any photo that you think you might want to find later or photos that you don't think the AI is going to find for you. Also, mark your favorites right away as soon as you take it. You know that's going to be a favorite. Put the little heart on it so you can find it again. So this will truly, using a combination of these, will make your library really functional. You don't have to go overboard. You just do literally think, is this a photo I might want to find later or a group of photos I might want to find later? And then put it on there. And a tip is most photo organizing software will search all of the fields at once. So it'll search the file name, it'll search captions and keywords, even albums and folders, so that if you've put the word somewhere, you should be able to find it. Not all of them. For example, Google will not search file names, Apple will. Some useful keywords and captions that I use. I admit I am a keyword junkie. I love them. I use them all the time. People, if you're not using facial recognition, special events, pets, birds. I have all of my birds labeled in my photo library, which is why my children laugh at me. Locations, if you're not using GPS, things you want to remember. First day of school, first time riding a bike, things you collect. So one question I get all the time is difference between a caption and a keyword. I use captions as a longer description. I use keywords as sort of the quick hit. So you can see an example in the photo there of the lions. Some programs that are good that will allow you to add keywords and captions, Adobe Bridge, and this is for the ones that are, sitting in on your computer. Adobe Bridge, which is free. Adobe Lightroom is great. Apple Photos will let you add captions on your phone. Just swipe up on the photo and you'll see that field. On the computer, you can do captions or keywords. Forever, which I'll talk about as another organizing platform. Mylio Photos, these will allow you to add captions and keywords, and pretty much everything will allow you to make albums or collections. Some of my favorite albums, best of for family members, pets, birds, travel, events, holidays, first day of school, and photos you might want to use for a project. So if you have somebody graduating next May, create an album right now that says, graduation project. And every time you come across a photo that you want to use, stick it in there. So a storage solution, moving on. This is a question I get all the time. Where should I keep my photos? And there is a list of criteria that I go through with my clients to figure out what is going to work for them. And I can spend an entire hour on this. I actually offer an entire hour consult on this. The real question is where are your photos now? And are you happy with the way that works? If your answer is yes, then you can ignore the next couple slides, stay where you are. I never want to move people away from a place they are happy. If you're not sure, then these are some of the criteria you should think about when looking for a different solution. Which of these do you want? Access from all of your devices, AI, facial recognition, captions and keywords, what's the privacy situation, how do you want to share, what do you want to spend? The last one is important because I will tell you there is no free photo storage solution that I would trust. Ever, hands down, don't use them as your only. And the reason for that is they have no impetus to keep your stuff safe for you. If it's free, you are the product and it's not going to end well for you. You can use it as a backup, but don't use it as a primary. These are some of the storage solutions. These are the ones I work in most often. Again, the email I can send you after the presentation will talk a lot more about these. I'm going to show you a very not scary, but in-depth screen with some things on each one. You can take a screenshot if you want. But I do blog posts on a bunch of these, so you can go back at your own leisure and read the email that I can send. But they essentially are just showing you that not all photo storage solutions are the same, that some have certain features and others have different features. So some of them you're probably familiar with, some you're not, some are subscription, some are not. Example, Forever, you buy your storage up front, and then they promise to keep your photos safe for your lifetime plus 100 years, which can be very intriguing for people building legacy who don't want their children to have to pay for it. Something like Mylio is not web-based. So if you have more privacy concerns and you don't want your stuff in the cloud, take a look at Mylio. So there's all sorts of different things that these offer. Again, you can take a screenshot. You can come back and watch this video again or find this spot so that you can see what they are. But really think about what's listed here and what is most important to you. What features, so if we come back to this screen, what features are most important to you? Pick the top two and make sure the photo storage solution that you are either using or looking for has those two. And then think about the rest and find the right one. It's not an easy question because there's nothing perfect out there, but I have found that everybody's different And when you find the right one, it's just such a joy and a pleasure to work in your photos that you're going to actually want to do it. So our last topic, backup. So along with gathering everything in one spot, this is the other super, super duper duper important that if you learn nothing else today, I want you to take home and with you, is you've got to set up a backup system. It should have 3 copies of everything, or you should have 3 copies of everything. And this goes for important other types of digital documents as well, not just photos, on 2 different media. What I mean is don't have 3 copies of your photos on the same drive, because what happens if the drive dies? And one of them should be off site. That can mean in the web, or it can mean you take one of those drives and you drop it at your office or your sister's house or wherever. Not in the same place. If your house burns down and all your copies are in your house, you're out of luck. So really, really important. And one note about backup, there's a lot of can be a lot of confusion. There's 2 different things happening with your photos often. One is backup, one is sync. If your photos are syncing, when you make a change, say on your phone, you delete something or you add a caption, that same change will be made on all of your devices. So if I delete this really cute picture of a Wilson's warbler on my phone, it will delete from my computer. So if you're using your phone and thinking, I'm going to delete a bunch of stuff to make more room, make sure that it's doing what you want. Make sure that you do actually want it to delete somewhere else. And that you're not, because if you're cleaning up to try and make room on your phone, you might discover later that you actually deleted it from everywhere. An example is Apple Photos. If I delete something from my phone, it's gone from all of my devices. A backup is one way only. So that means that photos are taken from my phone and put somewhere else, and then any changes I make on my phone do not affect that other copy. Meaning if I then lose my phone, or my phone is stolen or it dies, I have that copy somewhere else. So going back to Apple Photos is actually kind of in between, because with a syncing system, if you delete from your phone, yes, it's gone everywhere. But if you lose your phone, your stuff is in Apple Photos. And when you get a new phone or you go to your computer, everything is there. So it's really important just to know how your system works so that you are doing what you want to do. You're either deleting because you want to delete, or you are deleting because you know you have it elsewhere and you don't want to keep everything on your phone. When you're setting up a backup system, automatic is always best. You want something that you don't have to think about or it will not get done. I use Backblaze to back up all of my computers, my work computers, my personal computers, everything, and it just runs in the background all the time so I don't have to think about it. Time Machine on your Mac will back up your entire computer. One caveat is if it will only back up your photos if you're actually saving your original photos to your computer, which is a setting that not many people look in. So you've got to check your photos settings and see whether it's keeping the originals on your computer or the optimized versions. Most people, it's the optimized, just so you know whether Time Machine is backing you up. And then there's other programs you can use as well. Like I said, these will be in the email I can send you. pCloud can do it. Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox. A lot of programs will allow for an automatic upload of your camera roll so that you can get things backed up. A word of caution about that, well, I'll go back here for a second. A word of caution about that is if you are using the automatic backup of your camera roll, you might want to think about if you want that automatic, because you're going to back up everything and then delete a bunch of stuff, and all that stuff is still in your backup. So you'll need to think about that process. Of what I mentioned earlier, Mylio Photos will make as many different hard drives as you want, and you can then store one of them somewhere else. Amazon Photos is great as a secondary backup because most people have Prime, and that is included unlimited photos, not videos. And then Apple Photos and Time Machine. So make your backup plan. Automatic is best. If not automatic, backup at regular intervals, stick it in your camera, and then keep a copy offsite, as I mentioned before, so that if something happens, you will have it. So that's my general outline. As I mentioned, if you want a full day of this, you can sign up for the summit that's on Saturday. But what I really want you to know is that really enjoy the journey. Don't look at it as a chore because there's so much fun that you can have while you're doing this. You'll notice I did not put a picture of us at the finish line. Instead, we're at the 99-kilometer mark. In part, that's because my actually phone ran out of battery, as did my cousin's, at the 100-kilometer mark, and we don't have that photo. But we still made it. But really, because it's the journey that can be really fun here. So if you want to connect with me, here's all of my information. And if you'd like me to send you an email that has a list of all of the software with the links and a bunch of additional blog posts that I've written about many of the photo organizing softwares, I do spotlights on them. I've written about backup, all sorts of different things. You scan the QR code and I will send you that email with that information. And I hope that you learned a lot. And if there's any questions, Derek can hop on now and we can go through them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Allison. We do already have some questions. We'll start with DB Jedi asking, I have 3 trays of 35 millimeter slides. What do you recommend as I would like to get them digitized?
Yeah. So we didn't talk at all about the analog stuff because I'm pretty sure that's a whole separate talk. But I would highly suggest that you do get them digitized. So slides are actually one of the easiest formats that I do. It's one of the things that I offer. There are a lot of different resources that can help you. So if you want to do it yourself, there are scanners out there that you can get. There's an Epson 600, which flatbed, which is quite inexpensive and very, very slow. But if you have time, you can use that. And there's directions on it. It's not hard. Or find a photo organizer in your area to have them help. We are all over the country, actually all over the world. If you go to the photomanagers.com, there is a directory there. So you can find somebody so that you don't have to ship them. Although I actually have people ship them all the time. But then once they're digitized, it's really important. Find someone who will change the dates for you so that when you add them to your digital library, they're not all dated September 24th, 2025.
Wonderful. Another question from DB Jedi. When the software finds duplicates, how is it determining duplicates? As relying on just the file name is not going to cut it, or is it?
No.
So do you know how the software does that?
Yeah, and there's a whole algorithm that it uses. So it does look at file names. That's one of the things you can use. I actually caution people about using only the file name because you will find so-called duplicates, files with the same name that are not actually duplicates. But it uses that. It uses the metadata, it uses the EXIF, so it uses the dates, the times, the GPS if it's there, the bitmaps, the histograms. It will use a lot of things. It will use the size of the photos. And exact photos are things that are literally, there's never been anything changed about it. It's, you've literally taken one photo and copied it to another place. But sometimes there's also the type of duplicate where it's something you might have texted to somebody and it comes back to you and they're not the same photo anymore. So the software will look through all of that. It starts with the exact, you set it and tell it what to do. Start with a scan for any of these programs that I mentioned that find exact, and then you can change things like, make the matching level a little bit less so that it'll find things that are a little bit more similar but not exact. Set it so that there can be a little bit more time in between photos. So there's all sorts of settings you can use to help you go down the line. At some point, it'll start pulling back things that aren't really duplicates or that you want to save, and that's when you stop.
Perfect. And Chuck Savadellis asking, what is your favorite service for sharing families or photos with the family?
That's like the $1 million question. And it kind of depends. So if you want to share with just, 1 or 2 people, almost any one of the software solutions that I had up there will do it. Apple Photos, you can make a shared album. If you want to share a little bit more broadly, like a gallery of photos, a lot of things can do that too. So you select the photos out of your library and essentially send a link. In the privacy course I mentioned, we talk a lot about links because they're not the most secure, but you can send a link to a subset of photos that you want people to see. then the problem is they always have to find that link to get back to those photos, right? So if it's something transient, you just want to share, hey, check out my vacation, you can do that with any one of these softwares. If you want people to have more continual access, so say a group of photos that you're going to be adding, like a folder you're going to add to, and so that they can always see them, Forever is one of my favorites for that. It has great sharing tools. And you can set different permissions where, cousin Bob and Aunt Jean get this set and my brother gets, this other set of photos, which makes it easy. Mylio is also good if you have a smaller subset. You can literally give them access to parts of your entire library and let them add captions and things. So it really depends on what you want to do. And that's if sharing is important to you, then that should be on the top of your criteria list for looking for the solution that's going to work for you. As I mentioned, I have some blog posts on those on my website. So, feel free to go there and take a look.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again, Allison. It looks like that covers the questions. And if you guys do have a question that you didn't think of while we're live now, Allison did drop all the information there. Wonderful QR code. So hopefully you guys took a screen grab of that or pulled up the phone and did what you do with the QR code. That's what they're there for. But Allison, huge thank you to you once again. Any closing words?
I just enjoy the journey. Try not to get upset or anxious or stressed out because you have too many photos. It's a process and it can be fun. And that's what I want people to know is just make it fun. They're not going anywhere. They're not hurting anyone. So take the time, go through them all, and just create something great.
That's it. And start today. If you're a
Start
procrastinator,
today,
today is
exactly.
the best day to start. So a huge thank you to Allison and to all the photo managers for a wonderful month of learning. And that's all we have now for you. Another edition of the B&H Event Space now in the books. Catch y'all next time.